Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, everyone ends up finding out about, obviously, Dallas and Bonnie being missing, and we had the whole situation with Clyde. Kind of, now he has the glasses, he has the Bible, he has the potential to complete whatever it is that Jones wanted completing, the alighting. And he ends up kind of burning down, all the stuff that's related to Bonnie because he's letting her go. He's like, right, she's dead, I gotta let her go. I wonder, does him and Teska not know the truth about the place that she dumped, Alex is at, and he put Bonnie and Dallas, maybe that place is special, so I don't know if they knew about its properties necessarily, or maybe they thought, right, if you'll be there, no one will find you, and you'll be lost and dead forever. Maybe that's all they know of it. Either way, when it's all said and done, though, not only, obviously, Liz and Maria obviously discovered, right, Alex is missing and that he's been reaching out to Maria, so she's trying to find a way to reach out to him, and they bring in reinforcements with Rosa, with her kind of echolocation ability. They're hoping she can help end up locating him, but it's on a need-to-know basis and not letting Michael know about Alex being missing. Just when they also, at the same time, Max ends up informing her about Dallas and Bonnie. Because for Liz, it's right, he's a ticking time bomb. The fact is, we need to be careful with Michael. Let's at the very least tell him about Alex after we found potentially a lead on him. And her and Max weren't in a good place, so Max didn't put up much of a fight. He didn't want to lie because it's right, lying obviously is that can't be a good thing. Because her and Max still are on opposite sides of this whole thing, because she's trying to make a cure, and she's saying, with everything going on, we're going to need your powers back in the mix. But for him, it's you found your path forward, but you're still judging mine. He's this is my path, you got to let me kind of go down it. But for her, it's we're kind of at an impasse again, because she believes him wrong. Because for her, it's you denying your powers is denying a part of yourself. You're still running from yourself, running from who you are, instead of fully embracing him. And Max, trying to make sure they stay in a good place, did not tell his brother the truth about Alex, so he ended up finding out on his own, which made him flip out at both Rosa, Maria, and Max, because it's I hope the wedding was worth losing a brother, because it's right, I literally walked through fire to save Liz for you, and you couldn't do that. You know how important Alex is to me, and you did it just so that you can get basically some brownie points with Liz. So, and even Max recognizes how messed up that was in the long run. But luckily, Michael did calm down after, obviously we'll circle back to Liz and the cure that she ended up discovering for Bonnie's virus that basically takes away your abilities. But from Liz wanted Michael, you shouldn't blame Max. It was my decision. I'm the one, don't blame Max or Maria. It was on me. I'm the one that made that decision. But even Michael's right, you didn't tell me because you figured I was going to act like a child. And what did I do? I acted like a child. Obviously, it's understandable. This is someone that you love and care about. Because what stresses him out the most is that it's right, Alex is reaching out to Maria, but why isn't he reaching out? No, I'm the one, he would be reaching out to, so why, I think he was frustrated by that. But for him, it's also while I was off being, as he said, Donnie Bravo, not Donnie Bravo, Donnie, Roscoe, he was basically while I was over there being undercover with my new alien buddies, Alex was in trouble, and I was completely unaware. This is the person I'm supposed to love, and I didn't even know. He was frustrated with himself, and he kind of took it out on all of them. But Liz kind of says the reason why she did what she did is because Alex being missing, it made her heart sink. Just like when she thought she lost Max forever, she felt that in her soul again, and she just didn't want to. She didn't want to put Michael through that, because she knows what it's like, that worry that you'll never see the person you love again. You know, when Max died, that's what she thought, and she didn't want that Michael's entire world to come crashing down. So, but luckily he got his powers back, and he ended up apologizing to Maria, because he's like, at the end of the day, I know you love Alex just as much as I do, so you're being this conduit to him, so like let me be kind of your connection as well. And they were able to reach out to Alex, because Rosa tried to find Alex, but she couldn't. And obviously, considering his circumstances, it kind of makes sense. It turns out that sand, like quicksand that they fall into, essentially it's like another dimension. So it's like, right, no wonder you can't find them. They're basically in a pocket dimension that's keeping them from, like, because technically they're not on this, I guess, plane of existence. Is why Rosa couldn't find him. But the interesting thing too is that her suggestion is that obviously their family circumstances, Luis's family, Luis was like obviously experimented on by the Caulfield experiments and stuff, and so it altered their family's ability. So now that her brain is healed from everything, now she's cured from like what has basically been a degenerative brain thing in their family, it now ended up shaping her abilities back to kind of more what they originally were. Because it's like basically they've had like her ability shifted because of her circumstances, and now she the way Rosa puts it, it's like you're going through alien puberty, because your powers for the first time in forever, they've always been not necessarily dampened, but there's always been this filter on them, shifting them into something else. Now they can truly blossom on their own. So that's why you're connecting to to Alex. And it's like, right, how did you got to find that place where to kind of like be within yourself. And how she does that is doing kind of what her mom did, walk around in the desert barefoot. And I think, that's kind of a beautiful thing of like, okay, that's at least how like she kind of awakens them, and little by little it was kind of awakening in her. And they followed the lights, how very Stranger Things too, of like following, like Alex was messing with the lights at the bar to point them towards the map, and the necklace he gave was that he has that Michael gave him, they're resonating with each other, and so put it on the map, and they pointed him in the right direction. Maria was almost in the quicksand, but luckily Max showed up too, because he found out about Dallas's last location earlier, just didn't have a chance before Michael ended up punching him in the face. But when it was all said and done, luckily they were able to save Maria too. But interestingly enough, her ability is to kind of, her true ability, I guess, is to kind of see like interdimensionally. So she's like, right, the sand is like basically like, it's like looking through alien glass. So that place is its own, like I said, a pocket dimension of sorts. How it came about, what that whole deal is. Once again, does Clyde know that? And did they send them down there because it's like, right, no one will find you, you'll starve to death and die? Or did they just think it was death and not realize what that place? Because the only person who can really see that place for what it is Maria. So maybe they were completely unaware. Maybe Jones knew about it. I don't know. A lot of questions ended up arising in this episode. Obviously, the Max and Liz situation, both of them kind of ended up getting advice. Well, first and foremost, Liz got advice from Michael of like, right, like you going down your path, maybe even if you disagree, you got to let Max go down his, because if you don't find some middle ground, it's going to tear that relationship apart. And so she realizes like, right, I was so happy about finding my own path that I kind of rushed down. I wanted you to kind of rush and find the answers to yours, but it's like, no, you kind of have to come to things in your own, because even Max is like not even sure if the path he's on is the right path. He thought just being a regular guy from Roswell would be like the answer to everything, but it's not necessarily. And obviously he wants to be the type of guy that's there for his family, and so for him it's like, I should have been there for Michael when he needed me. I should have told him the truth from the beginning and supported him like the brother that I am. And so Liz is going to support him no matter what he decides, because, you know, it's like, how do I go about, you know, finding these answers for myself? And like, at the end of the day, like, all you can do is try, because he doesn't, like, what is the right thing to do? Like, you know, fully embracing who he is, kind of running away from it. This is the path he has to go down, but he has to find those answers on his own down this path. You know, what's right for him, for who he is, the path he's chosen, so... but obviously he tells Michael, no matter what, like, I got your back. Because Michael wanted to rush down there after Alex was like, no, you need to stay here. I need your heart and your head here. I will back you up, brother. I have your back. And we'll do whatever it takes to get Alex back. It's like, right, I will do what it takes to get the love of your life back to you. So definitely going to be interesting to see where things kind of go on that front. Then there's also the whole situation with Isabel, her and Teska. The moment it's like not just Isabel that has that memory, because Isabel confronts Teska, but Teska's like, I don't know that. And I'm like, your memories are tampered with. I was like, Jones did that. And I was like, because like, it doesn't even seem possible to Teska, but I was like, well, we know Jones was collecting abilities. Like, was it just science on Oasis that allowed him to do that, or did he steal a specific alien's ability to do that? He turned one of his enemies like into his most devoted ally, because she gave herself over because he was looking for Isabel, because he wanted to add her powers to his collection. He was gathering up all the powers. Like, every new clone basically had new powers that he had gathered from other aliens, other people on Oasis. And Isabel's mom left her with Teska because she trusted her, and she's the one that trained Isabel, because her power is something special that people would try to corrupt, because she is someone that could always see the truth. Now, that's an ability that someone like Jones would always be able to take advantage of, because it's like, well, yeah, that way you always know who amongst you is always being truthful. Plus, you being able to get inside of people's minds like that too. Like, it makes probably like getting information from enemies easier too. Like, that power would have benefited him a lot, and he ended up getting a loyal lieutenant in the process. And for Teska, it's like her entire world came crumbling down. It's like she believed that she was born into this cause, that she was all about it, but it's like, no, your real memories were sealed away. Anyone that would have answers to this, like Isabel was a child at the time, and obviously being in the pod for so long, like, buried those memories. But also the fact is, only other person that would have known that truth was her mom, and her mom's not is Isabel's mom, and her mom's not around anymore. So no one that was probably something only Isabel and her mom knew, and her students, and who knows, whatever. I mean, they might be dead, or, I mean, God forbid if Teska ever killed her own students because she didn't remember them because of Jones. But for her, her entire foundation of who she is was based on all this. And it makes you go, well, it seems like, well, Clyde's different than Teska. Teska was kind of forced into it. Clyde believes. He's a true believer in all of this. And so he had nothing, and Jones gave him purpose, gave him direction, gave him something to go towards. And I kept being like, oh, Ophiuchus, I thought that was like, oh, like, is that their god or something? It's like, no, Ophiuchus is the cult. It's Jones' cult that they were a part of. And now she's confused about, like, right, what is true anymore, for, you know? And it's like, oh, at least they potentially have an ally with Teska, so how that's going to play out. Maybe she's going to try and make things up to Bonnie. Clyde might not make it out of this, but maybe Bonnie and Teska will. Considering everything that's going on in that front, because they're both like, right, Bonnie's not all about this, and it turns out Teska isn't really either. She was kind of forced into this. So coming to terms with just like who you were before Jones changed you, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out going forward, and what that kind of means for Isabel having like her teacher here and having like a connection. Like, obviously, like, Michael's always had this connection to Oasis. He's kind of thrived on that, wanting to go back home. I mean, he even says that his focus on him being so focused on going back home and everything with like Clyde and Bonnie, like kind of being a part of that, made him so blind that he was so focused on that he didn't, pay attention to the whole Alex situation. But like he has some connections, obviously, in that regard, but also he has human life here to kind of ground him. But also Isabel has the same thing too, because like despite everything, is like right, there's still her and Kyle thing that needs to be resolved and how that plays out. So there's all of that. And then I skipped over it a little bit, but talked about it a tiny bit. Liz was helping Shivani with the cure, and it turns out Shivani has a cracked pod, and I'm like, isn't that Noah's pod? The one that's wasn't his crack? That's why he kind of was in the state that he was in. So it's like, right, I would assume the crack one had to be his. But then, like, the problem is it's cracked, and so the stuff that from the pod that Shivani was using is connected with the Earth's oxygen, and it's kind of diluting it, so it's not a perfect solution. So they end up using actual pods. So like, oh, there's 3 pods. Like, oh, there's 2 other aliens, but besides the one that you're subject. And Liz is like, I'm already basically to the point of bending my moral compass to the point it's breaking, so like it's better for everyone you don't ask me too much. But then it's like, right, the way you're being so delicate, Max, he's the alien, isn't he? And she's like, don't worry, your secret's safe from him. I'm like, that could get to a slippery slope territory, which it does later on, because the moment they make the cure and everything, obviously Shivani's like, oh, I can like help cure my daughter. You can tell immediately, because she's like, oh, the applications to this, which Liz has already been down that road before of like the applications of what that could do, like, the cures. And sadly, she says, oh, by accident, who knows, like, I mean, it might have been, but she said like Shivani ended up accidentally releasing the valve and ended up getting sprayed with some of the cure mist. And on a human, it increases their mental capability. So like she like just went like got smarter because of it, and she ended up revealing to Liz the truth. Her daughter Nicole is dead. She kept her body on it's not like her daughter, I thought her daughter was sick and she just put her in cryostasis. It's like, no, her daughter's died. And I wonder, does Allie even know that she's got that? Like, is that a thing? Like, no wonder she was kind of keeping that hidden. Like, it's like, oh, we knew she was trying to cure her daughter. She's curing her daughter of death, which now, because of her mental her mental capabilities are even higher, she pieces it together. Like, no, I know your cousin is actually your dead sister resurrected. So it's like, how is it fair that you get to have the person you love brought back and I don't? And Liz is trying to talk her down. It's like, I know what it's like to drown in that guilt for 10 years. It's like, no. When your sister she's walking around with her second chance, why shouldn't I have mine? And to complicate, and Liz is trying to explain it without going too deep into it, because it's like, if she tells the 100% truth, that's going to complicate things even more. But for her, it's like, you can't do this. Like, we can't play God, because there are consequences. Max bringing Rosa back. Rosa had very, very specific circumstances, and even those very specific circumstances, Max still died bringing her back to life, and it severely damaged his heart, so that even when they did bring him back, it wasn't enough. There were massive consequences for that. And so it's like, right, there's no guarantee that this would be able to fully bring her back to life, and who knows what those repercussions could be, because once again, at least Max is the only surefire way to bring someone back, but he would die in the process. And so it's not, what happened to Rosa isn't replicable to some extent, but Shivani's not thinking straight, because for her, she's driven by grief. And for her, it's like, what can you, Liz, say to me that countless other people haven't already tried to give her, like, it's like, oh, medicine and religion and all this. It's like, no, she went to the stars for answers on how to bring her daughter back. And it's like, Liz is telling her, don't do this. Like, you don't want to you will lose yourself in the process of trying to bring your daughter back. And she's like, I would rather lose myself than lose my daughter. So I was like, I figured she was going to smash that. And I was like, oh, that's, because I figured she was probably going to do that. Like, she was probably increasing her own mental capabilities, but also doing the same thing to Liz. And it's like, damn, that sucks. Like, I get it. You're driven by grief, but it's like, it's sad that things have kind of come to this. But once again, it's like, Liz was down this path before. She wanted to find a cure for everything, but she knows like how complicated that is, because it's like, because this will set them on a path where like that entire family could become like found out about, and then it could get experimented on, especially because it's like, right, pushed, especially because this all kind of also starts with Max with his healing ability. That could be a slippery territory, and it's like, but also, who knows what that's going to do to their minds in the long run. Like, it might burn their brains out because their brains are moving, like, running at a much higher capacity and rate than they're normally supposed to. So that could end up having long-lasting damage that could be irreparable. Obviously, we see at the end Liz passing out, and so is Shivani, and things do not look good on that front. And just at the same time, Isabel found out what it is that Clyde is going after next, and it's Liz. After you've gotten all the other ingredients you need, get Liz Ortega, because she's the key to figuring this out, because she understands the alien stuff more than anyone else in the way her brain is. Especially if you combine it with all of this, because she got a high dose of that stuff, because there's so much of, there was like, what, 60% of that left or something, and they both like they were both submerged in that, and it's still in the air, so like, who knows, like, even while they're unconscious, how much they're inhaling. So also Clyde is taking her student. Like, the moment I was like, oh, that's not going to be Liz, I was like, it was her student. I was like, oh, right, she's going to be used as leverage, because he was like, oh, are you her sister? And it's like, no, you racist. But it's like, now he's going to use her as bait to get Liz, because he needs her. Granted, she's not in a position to kind of help you right now, but so team is going to be in a very complicated situation next episode, with Liz being in the state that she's in, and when she does come back, she's, especially combining Liz, who she is, like, who that scientist part of herself is, plus obviously that, like, stuff, like what it does to you, like, you're not thinking straight, like, that's going to do a lot to Liz. Maybe we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. I mean, this could be, Rosa being in town is a benefit, because she was able to get in touch with Maria and her coma, so maybe she'll be able to help Liz and Shivani with their circumstances. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, and what the aftermath of that, when that's all said and done, will Shivani apologize? Because there's still the whole thing of like, right, we don't know where Allie is either, and there's got to be something correlating with that. I mean, once again, there's still the Dallas, Bonnie, and Alex situation. That also explains, if it's considered like a different dimension, them going in there at different times maybe teleported them to different sections of this little pocket dimension. Like, who knows how vast it is, So we'll have to see where the next episode takes us. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.